Hey, NOSA community, it is Shamika, and I am back, and welcome to our office hours. Thank you for being a part of the NOSA group community, our social media platforms. We're so excited here to kind of change the format of office hours to be more inclusive and allow you guys to ask the questions that you want to hear. So I'll be giving my take during office hours. We'll also be doing office hours live every other Wednesday. So we will be having office hours this coming Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So we'll drop the link here down below if you want to jump on. If you can't make it, that's okay. Just drop your question here and we'll discuss it, and I'll give my take on it in office hours now. So let's get started. So our first question is about if there's any suggestions on the best way to get clients. And this is a great question because within our community, we really are about being inclusive and allowing people to ask any question, because no question is a dumb question, and feel comfortable that they're going to get other people's quality experiences. So I tell people in our platform, and from me, you're just kind of getting advice from our experiences, but it may not fit every situation. So some of the feedback that I'll give on this question is really around what type of clients are you getting? So in anything that you do, when you think about business, you have to do your research. So what types of clients are you getting, and where do they hang out, or where are they located? So you really want to think about those things when you're like, okay, well, I've got more clients from LinkedIn, or going in person, or via email campaigns, or cold calling. And don't get me wrong, doing all of those things is probably going to get you a good idea. But if your particular client is a more in-person, or they go to conferences or chamber of commerce, seminars, and events, that might be the best place to be. So my official answer to the question is start small, easy, and reasonable. So start where you think they may be. So that's why I suggest we have some videos on it here to really think about going into LinkedIn. So I've found in my experience, and there's been a lot of information out there about it, is that the clients are hanging out at LinkedIn. Your clients are probably also hanging out on Twitter. So if you don't have a presence there, then that's a great place to start reaching out to clients. But clients also typically in our healthcare staffing realm attend conferences. So finding out the different types of conferences, which you could probably do through LinkedIn, that they're attending that may create a mutually beneficial opportunity is key as well. And then finally, and you guys are going to say, okay, that was too easy. Let people know what you're doing. Don't be shy. Don't wait until you're 2 or 3 or 4 months in to share with your own individual community that you live in that you're starting the staffing business. You never know who may be able to connect you with other people and or continue to connect the dots for you. I have a plethora of stories where people have at church or in the grocery store or at meetings or conferences just kind of shared, hey, this is something we're working on. We're looking to launch in 2024 at the end of 2023. And that kind of begins the process for many people to connect and obtain contracts from clients. So the main thing I'll say is don't be shy. Don't keep it to yourself. Share with people what you're trying to do, what you're working on, because many times those individuals believe in what you're doing and are willing to support, but if they don't know that you're doing it, they really can't do that. So a few things to remember: social media. Your potential clients for sure is on social media, but I would not do things like email marketing, or I have the video where you can reach out through Medicare.gov or other approaches like that. Direct marketing, where you're meeting with people directly where they are at their particular facilities or locations, cold calling, all of those things work. But if you're someone who may have a limited staff or limited time, you really want to focus in on what works for your particular specialty, because ultimately in the early stages of running your business, you can't staff for everything. So you really want to focus in on the area that you have a lot of experience in typically, or that you have a lot of resources to fill. So if I was to say get started in the next month or so say I started over and I'm getting started, one thing that I would look at, especially in this market, is, hey, where do I have the most resources? Meaning people. Because once you make the connections and you're kind of going through the process of negotiating a contract, you have to give them people. That's what they want. So if you don't have connections in med-surg tele or step down, but maybe you're a labor and delivery nurse, maybe make that area your initial area of specialty, because just like with clients and friends and things of that nature, usually your network of potential employees is in the specialty that you're actually working. So definitely take that into consideration. And it doesn't have to be just for nursing. This can apply for allied health, pharmacy, all of those different areas within healthcare. When you think about, hey, I want to get started, I'm an ICU nurse, or I'm a med-surg tele nurse, or I'm an ED nurse. Most of your friends or networks, people that you network with, are in those areas or within similar areas. So you want to really think about that when you're thinking about, hey, what type of client I want to reach out to, and then what type of employees can I help meet those particular clients' needs. So as always, if you're not following us here on our channel, we've officially reached over 1,000 followers, which you're too excited about. And we'd love to join and have you be a part of our community here on YouTube. So go ahead and click that bell and follow us and subscribe to our channel, get some updates on our latest office hours, as well as you want to know more information about what we're doing in our social media community or outside of our social media community. Definitely check out our website, as we have a lot of content about what we'll be getting into, what will be happening, conferences we'll be attending in 2023 and as we go into 2024. And let's jump into our next and final question. So the next question is a good one, and it's something that I think sometimes, and as time goes on, we'll probably delve into or have one of our partners talk more about, is can you use factoring companies when working with vendor management systems? So VMS is vendor management system. And of course, but I would say that with a little bit of a caveat, because vendor management systems operate a little bit different than direct clients in the traditional payout process. So traditionally, and I'm telling it this way so that you understand, traditionally you may invoice a client weekly and then be paid for that month within the next 30 days or 45 days, right? But with vendor management systems, because there's so many more pieces and layers involved, sometimes that process, as far as being paid out, which means you get payment for services, can go between 45 to 60 days. So one thing that I would take into consideration when either working with a factoring company or researching factoring companies or invoice factoring companies is to really think about the capacity. So not only the capacity as an agency owner to kind of maintain payroll for that period of time, if it's 45 to 30 days, but how your factoring company works with you when doing so. We have already a lot of content here on our YouTube channel. And as always, I'll drop the video here where it talks more in depth about how factoring companies work. But understanding that piece, understanding fees involved, late fees, payments, and all of that is really key, so that, hey, if for instance you have a factoring company and you're thinking about working with a vendor management system, that you begin the process early on with that particular company to make sure that you're clear as far as, hey, the difference in cost if you have a client that pays out in 30 days versus a client that may pay out in 60 days, as well as any other types of limitations, because there is a little bit of a myth around people with regards to, are there instances where a VMS could become a non-payer client? And it has happened. So you want to look at all those variables. You want to also take into account that some VMS clients, just like direct clients, can become non-payers. You want to think about the time period and how the fee schedule and structure is set up for that particular company. You also want to take into consideration how much business will your particular company do with this particular vendor management system? And I give this as the example because I saw that this happened, or this hiccup was a thing for a lot of NOSAs during the pandemic. So if you have a client through a VMS and you're billing hundreds of thousands of dollars on a weekly basis, then the way that you're set up really has to look that you can sustain that individually. As I know from my experience working with factoring companies, sometimes they put limits, or most of the time they put limits on how much they're going to fund for a particular client. So with that being said, if you have a client and say you're doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a week, like many of you guys did during the pandemic, but then you reach your cap with your particular invoice factoring company. Okay, so what do you do next? So having a backup plan, which I think should include a funding source, a more direct funding source, which would mean maybe your business funding some of the invoices or things of that nature, is really key, because things can get tricky. You can get a client and it be really slow, right? Or you can get a client where it could be very busy, but if you're reaching the cap of that particular funding company, you can't kind of go and get another one, because it just doesn't work that way. So you want to think about, hey, what other internal funding sources does my business have to kind of sustain this high paying client, And then also ask questions of your factoring company around, hey, if you put a cap here, does that mean that cap stays in place? How long? What's the process of reevaluating or increasing, the limits and things of that nature. So you want to have those conversations early on, especially if it's something that you're exploring and it's something that you're excited about. There's so many vendor management systems, and a lot of companies are kind of going into that, or partnering with them. So you want to make sure that, hey, if you have a client that at one point was a direct client and now a part of a VMS, and maybe you're billing high, what does that look like when you think about working with your particular factoring company, or if you're looking to do that? So I hope that answers you guys' questions. As always, feel free to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Thanks for joining us again for office hours. We look forward to seeing you this coming Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We'll drop the link here to jump on and join us. If you haven't gotten a chance to join our office hours and you want us to answer a question, go ahead and drop it in the comments as well, and we'll add your question to our list of questions you'll be answering over the coming weeks. As always, thank you all for being a part of the community. We're glad to have you. We're excited to share a lot of the upcoming things that we have happening in our community with you all, and we will be chatting with you.